Hello everyone, I Kuldeep Sharma welcome you all to today's session of Daily News Analysis, where we are going to look at the most important news headlines from the Hindu newspaper as well as the Indian Express. So let's start with the news for today. So the first news is a statement being made by the West Bengal minister, TMC party leader Derek O'Brien. He said that the West Bengal government was not consulted when India and Bangladesh decided on this particular water pact. So let's study about what water pact he is talking about. So India and Bangladesh are neighboring countries, and there are many rivers which flows from India and goes into Bangladesh. So India being a upper riparian state and Bangladesh is a lower riparian state. So because of this, wherever there is a flow of river between different states also or between different countries, many kind of dispute arise. But India and Bangladesh were smart enough to understand that the best way to solve a dispute is through negotiation only. So because of this, they created a cooperative arrangement, a kind of a commission, and that commission is known as India-Bangladesh River Water Cooperation or a Joint River Commission. So this commission is not a new thing. It was established long back in the year 1972 itself. And why this year is important? Because it was the year of 1971 when the India-Pakistan war took place, and this led to creation of a new country known as Bangladesh. And as soon as this country was created, as soon as this country was came into existence, India and Bangladesh started resolving their mutual disputes or bilateral disputes also, starting with the water being the most important thing. Now this JRC, this Joint River Commission, is not headed by any secretary or a bureaucrat, but it is headed by political leaders of these two countries. By political leaders, I mean at least the water resource minister of both countries. So from India, the Jal Shakti minister, and whatever is the designation of the Bangladesh minister there. These are the two persons who basically head this, so that it is not like some bureaucrat has taken some decision and now it is up to the political class to finally say yes to it or say no to it. So finally the decisions are done at the topmost level only. Moreover, the next important thing is that India and Bangladesh share a total of 54 rivers. So there are around 54 rivers which obviously flow through India and then finally get into Bangladesh. Now you can just remember this number. It is not expected that you know the name of all the rivers which flows from India and goes into Bangladesh, or you at least know 10, 12. But we should at least just have an idea which are the main rivers which flows from India into Bangladesh and what is special about those. So I have shortlisted 4 rivers which are main important rivers between India and Bangladesh. The first two are very well known, your Ganges or Ganga and your Brahmaputra. These two are very important rivers. So one task for you is to tell me the name of Brahmaputra. By what name? By what name is Brahmaputra? What name is Brahmaputra known in Bangladesh? What is the name of Brahmaputra in Bangladesh? The other two rivers, lesser known rivers but very important rivers, is the river of Teesta and the river of Feni. Feni river is also important. So I am sure you are aware of Ganga and Brahmaputra. These are very mighty rivers, very well known rivers. But let's study something about the Teesta river and the Feni river. So what is Teesta river? So Teesta river is a tributary of Brahmaputra only. So finally, before it enters Bangladesh and before it drains into the Bay of Bengal, it becomes a tributary of Brahmaputra. It finally joins with Brahmaputra. Okay. Now second thing, from where does this river originates? So it is one of the major river. It is one of the more important rivers of the state of Sikkim. So this is a river which originates in Sikkim and flows through West Bengal before entering Bangladesh. And this river is very important for irrigation and jute cultivation, and also for jute cultivation in West Bengal. So when India and Bangladesh were trying to decide on the Teesta river water sharing, West Bengal was also very much involved, because it felt that if India did some kind of arrangement which would not be favorable to West Bengal, then it might be facing a lot of difficulty. So when Teesta river dispute settlement was taking place, or Teesta river arrangement was being done between India and Bangladesh, West Bengal was directly involved into it. So remember this, that Teesta is a tributary of Brahmaputra. It originates in the Sikkim and finally flows into Bangladesh. Next, another river is your Feni river. So Feni river is another important river. So your Ganga, and Ganga comes from your western side of Bangladesh, from this side, basically from the West Bengal side, and your Feni river, and moreover your Brahmaputra comes from your Assam side. Teesta river also comes from your West Bengal only. However, Feni rivers comes from the east of Bangladesh. It comes from the northeastern side of India. So Feni river also forms the part of India-Bangladesh border. So if this is my northeast, this is my Bangladesh, here somewhere here is your Feni river, and this Feni river creates a border between India and Bangladesh. From where does this Feni river originates? So it originates in Tripura and meets the Bay of Bengal after it flows into Bangladesh. So we don't need to know the whole route of this particular river, we just need to know from where it originated. So this Feni river originates from Tripura, state of Tripura, and finally flows into the Bay of Bengal through via Bangladesh. So this was some important facts regarding this news. Moving on to the next news. So today we are going to discuss this particular editorial. So if you go through this particular Hindu editorial, you are going to find out some technical terms related to the parliament and the Lok Sabha. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain it to you what this article is about. So this article is talking about parliament change band strength spells more hope. So as you may know that this year, or in this particular Lok Sabha, there is a single largest party, but that single largest party, the BJP, is not able to get a majority on its own, and moreover it is falling short by at least 30 or 35 seats. 234 seats is the number. So because of this, opposition have also performed well, and it also has a very good number in the parliament. And in case future the allies of BJP decides to move away from the NDA alliance and join the India alliance, which is the opposition alliance, this government can fall also. So this was not the case in the last two Lok Sabha, the 16th and 17th Lok Sabha. So this author is arguing that because the opposition has a lot of space to discuss and debate and to at least make the government change its stance on some important topics, this particular Lok Sabha is going to be important. So finally, this is the 18th Lok Sabha, although the other two, the 16th and 17th Lok Sabha, were also headed by the NDA coalition of BJP, but the composition of last two Lok Sabha, so it's very different, and BJP was itself in very much power, so it was not dependent on its allies. However, this 18th Lok Sabha is a proper coalition government, because the BJP is also dependent on its coalition partner to pass any bill or any legislation in both of the houses. Till last year it was not the case, but this year this has become the case. So probably this year this author is expecting that there is going to be more debates into the parliament regarding those topics. Next thing, one issue he's raised is that at least till the last two Lok Sabha session, the 16th and the 17th Lok Sabhas, there was missing this parliamentary committee scrutiny. So there is this parliamentary committee on jurisdiction, and the main job of that parliamentary committee is to look into the bills, find the shortcomings of the bills, and try to reform those bills. So this particular author is arguing that at least in the 16th and 17th Lok Sabha, this parliamentary committee scrutiny was missing, and is given a very good example that the opposition members have stated that the three farm laws bills, so these bills were introduced in the 17th Lok Sabha, and there was no debate over it. Those bills were not referred to the parliamentary committee scrutiny, and also the government did not had any kind of fruitful discussions into the parliament, and they were passed by brute force, by brute majority in the parliament. Because of this, the author is arguing that the public also did not support it and the opposition also did not support it. It is another matter that this particular bill would have been helpful for the farmers, but because there was no parliamentary scrutiny, so there was not all around acceptability of such bills. So at least he believes that now, because the main government party or the main BJP party is not in full majority, it might have to refer more such bills for parliamentary committee scrutiny. And then he goes on to explain to you that this parliamentary committee scrutiny is very important so that better bills can come up. Next, he talks about that the bills are supposed to be put in public domain. So this was the case earlier also, that in the 16th and 17th Lok Sabha also, bills were put in public domain. Bills were asked to be, public feedback was asked about those bills. If there was any suggestion regarding an improvement in the bill, those were also asked. However, he says that parliamentary committee scrutiny begins once the public consultation has been done, the bill has been introduced, and now the public, now this parliamentary committee scrutiny is dealt with. So the argument of the government that we are actually listening to the voices of the people by sending this particular bill in public domain does not hold ground as plus this author. And parliamentary committee scrutiny, because of the expertise it has, because the access to experts it has, would be in a better situation to give you a better result. Next, he talks about a question hour. So the argument is basically that there were many voices in the public and in the parliament also that there should be a presidential kind of debate, just like the US has a presidential debate. So before any elections, both the candidates, for example, let's say this year candidates from Democrats is is your Joe Biden, and from your Republican side it is Donald Trump. So both of these candidates are going to go into different TV shows, and there they are going to have live debates in front of the public. So a similar kind of topic was also raised, that we should also have such kind of debates among our ministers, etc. However, the author here argues that unlike those presidential debate which happens only just before the election, we have a continuous scrutiny of the government. We have a tool to have a continuous scrutiny of the government, and that is the question hour. So let's understand what is this question hour. So this question hour is a tool of parliament. It's a tool of parliament or of Lok Sabha. So usually, in usual cases, your parliament starts from 11 to 12. This is the first hour. This is the first hour of the Lok Sabha, and of the Rajya Sabha also, first hour of the parliament. So your parliament functioning usually starts at 11 a.m. in the morning, and 11 to 12 is the time when the MPs, when the member of parliaments can ask questions. Member of parliaments can ask questions from the ministers, and ministers are supposed to come prepared to answer those questions. And there are three types of question. One is your starred questions, one is your obviously your unstarred questions, and one is your short notice question. So these are the three kinds of your questions which a MP can ask a minister. Starred question, basically there is a asterisk attached to it, and a oral answer is expected from the minister. In an unstarred question, a written answer is provided. And short notice is very similar to a starred and unstarred question only. And moreover, usually the minister is not told about this particular question beforehand, and it is being served on a short notice. So this is an innovation of India's parliament, and the first hour is the question hour only. And in this hour, it is the government which is supposed to answer most of the question, or whatever question the opposition party members have with regard to the minister. So this is your question hour. Then the next hour is another Indian innovation. It is not even mentioned in our parliamentary books, which starts at 12 noon. And because it starts at 12 noon, it has been given a peculiar name also, X. So I am asking you to identify what this hour is. So X is not that hour. I'm asking you to fill this X, identify this X. Please mention in the comment box what is the next hour which starts from 12 and goes up to another 1 hour. And in this particular hour, any of the members of parliament can ask questions from the government, and no notice is required, no preparation is required. They can just stand at their place, and by the permission of the chair, whoever is presiding over the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, they can basically ask questions from the member of parliaments. And then you have to tell me which this hours is, where the member of parliaments, whenever they want to ask a question, they can simply stand up and ask those questions. So this is your second task. Moving on. So next, the author talks about that what is the main agenda, what are the first two agendas when it's come to this particular Lok Sabha. So first thing which the author is talking about is the election of the speaker. So I'm sure if you have gone through previous daily news or you have gone through the news, you must be aware that the parliament or the president has already chosen the speaker pro tem. And who is a speaker pro tem? So speaker pro tem is basically a temporary speaker, and the main job of that speaker pro tem is to administer oath to the rest of the members of parliament so that they can elect a speaker. So the first agenda on the newly elected Lok Sabha members is going to be the election of the speakers, and he believes that at least because this time opposition is also having a very good number, and if there could be and there would be a very good fight for electing this particular speaker, and we should wait and watch how this particular Lok Sabha behaves when it's come to speaker election. Next important thing which he points out is the deputy speaker election. So interestingly it's a constitutional post. So this particular post is mentioned in the constitution. So it is not the case that deputy speaker post is not mentioned in the constitution. Just like the post of speaker, deputy speaker post is also in the constitution. However, interestingly, in the last Lok Sabha, in the 17th Lok Sabha, no deputy speaker was appointed. So interestingly, this happened for the first time, that for the whole of this particular Lok Sabha, the last Lok Sabha, the 17th Lok Sabha, there was no deputy speaker, which means the seat of deputy speaker was vacant. So he is, and usually why it was vacant? Because many believes that this particular government did not wanted a opposition leader to become a deputy speaker, and the convention have been that it should be the opposition member, someone from the opposition bench, who should be the deputy speaker election. However, because the government did not wanted someone to be the speaker or to be the deputy speaker, because deputy speaker presides over the parliament, or this presides over the Lok Sabha when the speaker is not present. So because of this, they did not appointed any deputy speaker last time. So usually it was a convention to give it to an opposition member, only in convention, so there can be a breach also. However, in the last Lok Sabha, interestingly, this post of deputy speaker was vacant. Next is your president address. So interestingly, one more thing which he is talking about is the president address. So what is the president address? So again, another custom, whenever a new Lok Sabha is elected, the president addresses both of the parliament, and this particular address, whatever is the content of this address, is basically is by the government only. The government prepares this particular address, and in this particular address, all the policies and all the objectives of the new government or of the new Lok Sabha are mentioned here. So whatever the government wants to achieve in this particular Lok Sabha are provided in this president address. And so president address happens on two occasions. So one occasion is when a new Lok Sabha is elected. So because now we have the 18th Lok Sabha, because of this we are having this presidential address in between an year also. And the second thing, and the second occasion on which the president gives an president address to the house is when at the beginning of every new year. So at the beginning of new year, this president address is given. So every year at the start of the year, the first address is by the president only, and whenever a new government is elected or new Lok Sabha comes into existence, at that time also president gives an address. Next is motion of thanks to president address. So what is this motion of thanks? So there are various kind of motions which are discussed and debated and passed by the parliament. So similarly, whatever president address has been given, a motion of thanks, basically to thanks the president for this particular address, a motion of thanks is introduced. However, interestingly, if this motion of thanks is not passed, if this motion of thanks is not passed by the Lok Sabha, then the next thing is done is the no confidence motion. Because this particular president address contains all the promises and the objectives of the new government, and if the Lok Sabha does not thanks or does not passes the motion of thanks, it basically shows that the Lok Sabha does not have confidence in the new schemes or new projects of this government. Because of this, the next thing which happens is a no confidence motion against the government. And finally, the election of pro tem speaker. So he also talks about that this year a convention has not been followed. So usually whoever is the longest serving member of the parliament or of the Lok Sabha, usually he becomes the pro tem speaker. However, this time not the longest but the second longest member of the Lok Sabha has been made as the pro tem speaker. So in the comment box, if you remember, what is the name of the pro tem speaker? Probably by today we would be knowing, or by tomorrow we would be knowing the name of the new speaker also. However, what your task is to mention the name of the new proton speaker of Lok Sabha right now. So these are some facts regarding this article. So there is another editorial which we can discuss. So limit and access is the heading of this particular editorial of the Hindu newspaper, and this editorial is regarding it's kind of a critique of the Patna High Court judgment, where the Patna High Court has discarded the 65% reservation which was being provided to backward classes in the state of Bihar. Not the Supreme Court but the Patna High Court has discarded because of a particular judgment. So we are going to discuss that judgment in short also. So what is this Patna High Court judgment? That 65% reservation, which is beyond the 50% reservation, beyond the 50% ceiling of reservation which has been given by the Supreme Court, has been breached, so it cannot be allowed. And the main case which is important for us when it's come to reservation is the Indra Sani judgment. So it's a 1992 Supreme Court judgment, and this was the judgment which allowed, or which after which the OBC reservation was allowed in India. So before this particular judgment, or before 1989, there was the caste based reservation was only for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, and it was this particular judgment which basically provided constitutionality to the OBC reservation also. Apart from it, there were certain many important observations made by the Supreme Court in this particular judgment. So the two main observations which were made by the Supreme Court in this case have been discussed, because it is on these two bases that this particular Patna High Court has declared the 65 reservation as unconstitutional. So first thing is that if you will look at the preamble of this particular 65% reservation law of the Bihar government, it talks about proportionate equality. However, if you will go and read the Indra Sani judgment, there you will see that the court has stated that the constitution does not want, or the article 15 and 16 does not talks about proportional representation, but it talks about adequate representation. What is the meaning of proportionate representation? It basically means that whatever is the percentage of population of a particular caste group or of a backward class group, then in that proportion the number of seats should be reserved. So for example, let's say there is a X caste and the number of the population of that particular caste, let's say, is 15%. So if the population of X caste is 15%, then the percentage of reservation should also be 15%. So 15% of seats in educational institutes, 15% of the seats in government jobs should be reserved for this X community only. However, in Indra Sani judgment, the court categorically stated that the constitution does not talks about or does not allow proportionate reservation. It only talks about adequate representation. So to give you an example on how Indra Sani judgment this particular principle is applied. So for example, this particular OBC judgment, this OBC classes, this OBC reservation was provided on the basis of Mandal Commission report. The very famous or ill-famous report, this Mandal Commission report. As per this Mandal Commission, OBC constitute 50%, 52% of the population of India, the all of India's population. 50% plus population is in the OBC category only. However, the reservation which was provided was 27% only, and it wasn't proportionate to the proportionate to the population of those persons, which means 27% as per court was adequate representation. Moreover, the SCs and STs already had 15% and 7.5% reservation, and by adding this 27%, the total reservation went to 49.5%. 49.5%, and the Supreme Court was of the view that as much as possible, the total reservation should not cross the 50%. So the Supreme Court in this case clarified that there is a ceiling of 50% reservation to the total reservation. Moreover, this 50% reservation is on vertical reservation. And what is this vertical reservation? So vertical reservation basically means when you do a broad classification or broad subdivision of reservation. For example, when I am giving reservation to SC, ST, OBC and now to EWS, it's a vertical reservation. And as you can see, the vertical reservation limit of 50% has already been crossed, because SC, ST, OBC constitute 49.5% reservation, and already 10% reservation is being provided to EWS category. So in any case, this in any case, this 50% ceiling is being crossed in of this Indra Sahni judgment. However, in this Indra Sahni judgment, so there were earlier judgments also where the ceiling of 50% was being talked about. However, it was this particular case in which the court stated that this ceiling of 50% is not mandatory, and if exceptional circumstances provides, then this limit of 50% can be broken. And there have been many cases in which the Supreme Court has allowed reservation beyond 50% mark, provided the government has provided some data to objectify this particular reservation or to justify this particular reservation, or it has been able to prove some exceptional circumstances. For example, in this particular case also, the Patna High Court has stated that if this particular reservation, this excess of reservation would have been because of geographical distance or because of remote areas that development cannot reach those places, then this could have been allowed. Otherwise, this is not allowed in this particular case. So because of this, because this particular editorial has come up, you can read this editorial also. However, I thought it would be very good to discuss this Indra Sahni judgment in very short. Moving on, so another editorial which has come up in this news, so we are going to discuss this also. So I've just made a summary of this particular editorial which has come up. So the heading of this editorial is create the space for governance with a green heart. So again, this particular article is criticizing the previous governments of neglecting your environment because of its development needs, that its more focus was on the growth, economic growth and development, and it was your environment which was paying the price for such a neglect. So now they are talking about that because this time there is some balance in the Lok Sabha, there the opposition is also powerful, which means there is again space for green governance. What is green governance? That whenever any kind of policy decisions are being taken by the government is also including green or environmental concerns into it. So 5 points which he has given, so we are going to understand the 5 points. So first thing, why he is talking about space for green governance is that there is a reduction in green cover. So I hope you are aware that India measures our tree cover and your forest cover. So there is a measurement of tree cover and your forest cover. So what is the difference? If I am considering an area which is less than 1 hectare, then I am covering, I am talking about tree cover. When the area I am talking about is more than 1 hectare, I am talking about forest cover. And this author is arguing that in India this green cover is reducing. Moreover, it has provided one factual data also, that when it's come to per capita green cover, India is one of the lowest level of forest cover in the world. So this is the first reason why we require green governance. Second thing which the authors talk about is the congested city. So they are asking, and this is true. This is a true truth also, that the cities have overgrown. There is a problem of air pollution. There is water scarcity. So just a month back, when there were no rainfalls, now the rains have started in different parts of India. Water scarcity was become a big problem. Still, it is carrying on in your capital city of Delhi. Bangalore faced a very high level of water scarcity just before the monsoons arrived there. Another thing which he talks about is the phenomena of heat island. What is heat island? So because of concretization of the city, so everywhere you see that concretes have been created, glass buildings have been created, because of which the temperature, because there is no greenery around, because of this the temperature in that particular area is at least 2 to 3 degrees higher than the surrounding greener areas. So this phenomena is known as heat islands. And finally, he also talks about that the sewage treatment plants are also not working at their efficiency, and if the problem is not solved in your tier 2 or tier 3 city also, the problems of congested city which we are facing in tier 1 cities is going to now get into tier 2 and tier 3 cities also. Third thing which he talks about is the destruction in the Himalayas. So here he has pointed out this particular project, the Char Dham road project, infrastructure project. So all the Char Dhams, your Gangotri, Yamunotri, your Badrinath and Kedarnath, the government is making roads to all these Char Dhams, because of which a lot of destruction is taking place in the Himalayas. So many scientists and many environmentalists also had pointed out it earlier that your Himalayas are very young mountains, and the process of construction and destruction of these mountains is still continuing. So if you do a lot of infrastructure projects there, there would be a loss, there could be a loss of very high loss of your plant life and animal life. Moreover, the human habitation which are going to get there, probably sooner or later some natural disaster can come and it would again destroy your infrastructure and loss of human lives also. So the third thing which he talks about is the destruction in the Himalayas, and the main reason he is talking about is because of climate change. Moreover, the Char Dham project is also pointed out. He also points out that because more population is going towards the Himalayas, the temperature in those areas is rising, because of which the glaciers are also receding. So in future we are also going to get water scarcity or water problem because of receding glacier. Fourth thing he talks about is the lack of public participation. So we have this particular formula, a particular way by which we look at the environmental impact of a project. So every infrastructure project in India is supposed to conduct this environment impact assessment. So what is this environment impact assessment? So whatever could be, so if I start an infrastructure project, whatever would be the impact of that project on the environment, whatever would be the project of the, whatever would be the impact of that project on the cultural landscape, whatever would be the impact of that particular project on the human habitation in those areas, all of these are being discussed in it, and a report is prepared. And if the environment impact assessment turns out to be net positive होना चाहिए, यानी which means there will be some gain and some losses, but it should be net positive, and only when it turns out as net positive, such a project was allowed to be started. However, this particular government, the last government, has been more focused on the development and it has neglected this EIA. This had just become a checkbox. Basically you just have to get a tick over it also. So they started a single window clearance. So earlier it was a long drawn process of 60-70 days. Now it was a single window clearance. The district collector used to just goes to a village and have a simple public hearing, and on the basis of that public hearing, this EIA is cleared. So the long drawn process of EIA is not followed now. And finally, the last thing which he talks about is greenwashing. So what is this greenwashing? So the government and your private entities are also involved in greenwashing. What is this greenwashing? So it is the act of misleading the consumers by falsely promoting produces or practices environment friendly. So when I am creating any kind of infrastructure in the Himalayan region, I am selling this particular project as something which is going to help the environment. For example, if I start a hydroelectric project is a renewable energy project. It is going to help me to reduce my carbon dioxide emission. However, it is not actually environment friendly. So if I create a hydroelectric project in a environmentally vulnerable area, then probably the loss which the environment is going to face, the loss which that particular local environment is going to face, might not be offset by the benefit which I am going to get. So this practice of greenwashing is also very prominent among many Indians. So this was this article, and this article talks about why there is a requirement to include our environmental concerns when it comes to governance in India. Moving on to the next news. So next news is regarding reusable launch vehicle landing experiment, so also known as the Pushpak plane. So Pushpak Viman. So what is this Pushpak? So ISRO is trying to create a reusable launch vehicle. What is a reusable launch vehicle? So before this technology, this technology has been for a long time, since 1981 with US. So what is this technology? So earlier, whenever you used to launch a rocket into space, that rocket was supposed to be used for just one time. So that could be used only for one time. So for the next launch, you need to create a new rocket, and a full new setup was to be made for it. Now, if we are able to excel in this technology, if we are able to excel this particular technology, then we won't be needing to create a new rocket for every kind of rocket launch. This particular rocket which we have created can be used again and again. And what would be the benefit of using a particular rocket again and again? The cost of launching that particular rocket, or cost of launching that particular particular satellite reduces to a very high extent. And what is the name of this particular RLV Lex program of ISRO? The name of that particular plane is Pushpak. And now we had our third successful test landing of this particular. Now some two important facts regarding this. So what was the world's first operational reusable spacecraft? So the first operational reusable satellite, not satellite but spacecraft of the world was NASA Space Shuttle. So Space Shuttle was the name of NASA's reusable spacecraft, and it was in service between 1981 to 2011. So it was flown for more than 350 times. So it sent spacecrafts or satellites into space for at least 350 such projects, and it was active till 2011. It started in 1981. Next, which is the first private company to develop a reusable launch vehicle? So very popular, the SpaceX company of Elon Musk. It's a Falcon 9 rocket, which is a very powerful rocket. Was the first. It became the first private company and became the first private rocket which could be reused by the scientists. So these two important facts are also important for us. Moving on to another news. So from Indian Express, censor board thwarts Monkey Man release even after global cuts. So this particular movie was supposed to release in India. However, the censor board, or your central board for film certification, in short known as censor board, has denied the permission. So let's see some important facts regarding CBFC. So what is CBFC? So CBFC, just remember, it's a statutory body. What is a statutory body? That a body which has been created under law. So the law under which this particular body is created is Cinematograph Act of 1952, and this particular act was amended very recently, last year only. This particular act was also amended. So what are the kind of films or TV shows which requires film certification? So if you want to showcase any movie for public exhibition, if you are showing any movie to public, so through television also, through your cinema halls also, if you are doing a public exhibition also in some theater, all of these films required us film certification from this CBFC board. Now there are many other things in this particular act, but the main issue where I want to bring your attention is to how this film certification, or what categories of film certification is provided. So there are majorly 4 categories. One is first is your universal category, which means people of all ages, all sexes can go and watch this particular movie. Second is universal adult, which basically means under adult supervision, which means the person of any age can go and watch this movie. But if a minor is watching it, then adult supervision is required. The third category is the adult category. Which means persons above 18 years only can watch it. Moreover, this UA was for up to age 12. So if you are below 12 years, you required adult supervision. If you are above 12 years and below 18, you could watch it without supervision also. And finally, there is 4th class also, the special class. What is the special class? So if a particular movie is only for a category of, or for a particular profession, or for a particular category of persons only, then this S certificates can be provided. For example, there can be a movie which is only suitable for doctors, or which is only for the purpose of doctors. Then this particular kind of movie would be provided a S certificate. Moreover, what is the recent amendment or recent reform which has been done in this film certification? So the Cinematograph Amendment Act of 2023, it has created age-based classification. So earlier we have this category of UA 12 plus only. We had this category of UA 12 plus. Now we have 3 other categories. So we have subdivided this UA 12. So UA 12 plus is no more in existence, and now we have these 3 categories. One is your UA 7 plus, one is your UA 13 plus, and one is your UA 16 plus. So earlier there were only 4 categories. Now we have 3 plus 3, 6 categories now. So universal, adult, special class, UA 7 plus, UA 13 plus, and UA 16 plus. Okay, so these are the new 6 categories. So one more article from your Indian Express now. So in the explain section of Indian Express, this particular article has come up, which is regarding the oath taking in Lok Sabha. So it is another custom which is being followed in the Lok Sabha. So whenever a new Lok Sabha is elected, then all the members of the Lok Sabha take oath into the parliament. So we have already discussed that the office of Speaker Pro Tem, the Pro Tem Speaker, is appointed for this particular purpose only, that he is the main person responsible for administering oath to the member of parliament so that they can discharge their function. So let's understand what are the facts regarding this oath by MPs. So first thing first, so it is oath of Speaker Pro Tem. So first you elect a speaker, the president appoints a Speaker Pro Tem, and this oath is delivered by the president. So the president is only responsible in majority of the cases. The president is only responsible to provide oath to the Speaker Pro Tem. Now it is the job of the Speaker Pro Tem to administer oath to other MPs. So it is not the case that only he is responsible. Three other members are also appointed apart from the Pro Tem Speaker. So the president provides oath to the Speaker Pro Tem as well as to three other members, and these four persons basically help in administering oath to the other MPs also. Next, when does the term of an MP begin? So many people might get confused that only when one takes an oath, then only one becomes the member of the parliament. However, a person or a candidate who has won the election becomes the member of the parliament, becomes an MP as soon as the results are announced. So whenever the announcement of result is done by the Election Commission of India, the MP starts his term and he does not have to wait for the oath taking to take place to become the member. So remember this thing also. Now let's look at some process. So you don't have to remember these articles, I just for your reference purposes if you want to read them. So first thing is that they have to either take an oath or an affirmation. Oath is basically in the name of God. An affirmation is a general statement. It's a general statement where you take affirmation in your conscience. So you are not taking an oath of any god or any holy book, but you are affirming on yourself, on your conscience, that you are going to discharge the duty office properly. Now, in what all languages that can the MPs take oath? So the MPs can subscribe in English, can subscribe to an oath or affirmation in English or any of the 22 languages specified in the Constitution. So the job for you is to tell me in which schedule of the Constitution these 22 constitutionally recognized languages are mentioned. So in which schedule of the Constitution these 22 languages are mentioned in the Constitution? This is your question. Next, so many people might not know this, that if a person has not taken an oath in a parliament and he is participating in the parliamentary affairs, then as per the Constitution, in the Constitution also, a financial penalty of ₹500 per day is imposed on that person. So this financial penalty has not been updated for a very long time. So still a ₹500 of financial penalty every day is imposed on that particular MP who has not taken an oath. And this particular financial penalty can only for a maximum of 60 days. So if a member of parliament does not take an oath within 60 days, then his office becomes vacant. Now, where is the format of this particular oath being provided? So if you will look at the third schedule of the Constitution, the format of the oath and affirmation of the member of parliaments and other constitutional office also is provided, and it majorly talks about three things. So three main important component of the oath of a particular MP is that he has to allege true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India. Second, he has to promise or he has to affirm that he has to uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India. This was added later on in 1963. Do not remember this date. And third, he has to promise or he has to take an oath to faithfully discharge the duty of the office. So these are the three main components of the oath which an MP takes place. It is just for your reference purposes. You do not have to remember all of this. Now, one interesting question which can come up is that although right to vote is a limited right, so if a person is convicted, then it is very much possible that the government may extinguish or may not allow him, not extinguish but suspend his right to vote. That he's even if he is eligible to vote because he is a citizen of India, he is above 18 years old and there is no other discrimination, still his right to vote can be restricted. However, although a person's right to vote can be restricted, if a person is in jail and his case has not been decided yet, he can still contest the election. And many a times it has happened, and this in this Lok Sabha also this happened, that 2 or 3 candidates who were in jail at the time of election have won the election. Now they are also supposed to take oath. So can an MP in jail take oath from jail? So because I already told you that if a person or if an MP does not take a oath within 60 days, his office becomes vacant, which means he also needs to take within oath within 60 days. And because he is in jail, he cannot come to the Parliament House. The Supreme Court has provided that a MP can also take an oath from jail also. So he can become an MP while in jail also. So he does not have to come to the Parliament to take the oath, but he can remain in jail and take oath from there. So these were the important news headlines from today's Hindu and Indian Express. I hope you have been able to get something out of it. So that's it from my side. Thank you and have a very nice day.